Aloha and welcome to Action Island. I am Gilles Gallant, and we are back for Monday Night Football between the Vikings and the Bears. We're going to close out week one. I've got Nick Giffen, Sean Koerner, and Kyle Murray joining me today. And the four of us, we're going to give out our two best bets for tonight's Vikings versus Bears AFC North clash, or NFC North clash, rather. And so here's how it works. It's going to be two picks each from us, our best bets. Then we're going to vote on those picks. By the end of the show, we'll have a nice four-leg same game parlay for you. And all of these picks, just a friendly reminder, we're going to be dropping links in the YouTube chat as we go. And that'll help you be able to tail these bets if you want to, because some of these prop lines, as you may know, they'll move and they'll move fast. So you want to get the best price and the best number. Use the links in the chat and you can thank us later. All right, guys, let's start off now with Kyle Murray. Kyle, you have two picks for Monday Night Football. What do you like?
I do. I know. Everyone had a good week one, and now looking forward to the first Monday Night Football game of the year. And unfortunately, very bad news. I'm taking the under 43.5 points. Not going to be as exciting as last night's Sunday Night Football game, but under so far in week one are 12-3. So obviously a good start for the unders in 2025 NFL season. But for me, it's just two teams coming into fairly new situations. Obviously, the Bears with a new coaching regime, Ben Johnson taking over at the helm for the offensive side of the football. Tough matchup as well here against the Minnesota Vikings, who are a top three defensive unit in football last season. So overall tough spot on that side. And then for the Vikings offensively, essentially rookie J.J. McCarthy, who didn't play at all in the regular season last year, will take over for the Vikings. Plenty of cast of options around him offensively, but I do think it might be a little bit of an adjustment period for J.J. McCarthy coming into the NFL. So I like the under 43.5 points tonight.
All right, so under right off the hop from Kyle Murray. Friendly reminder too, if you tuned into Friday's Action Island, Kyle Murray went 2-0 on his picks. So likes the under in Monday Night Football. We've seen a lot of unders so far through week one. Kyle, what is your second bet?
Yeah, I'm going to the rookie tight end, Colson Loveland, over 28.5 receiving yards. We saw a couple of rookie tight ends have good games yesterday with Tyler Warren, Harold Fandon Jr. having pretty big performances in their NFL debuts. And I like the rookie out of Michigan to have a big one here in week one. Obviously, the Bears proved that Loveland was their guy. They drafted him 10th in the draft in April, and they went above a lot of people who thought was the consensus top tight end in the draft, Tyler Warren, to take Loveland. And Ben Johnson, we know he is one of the top offensive minds in football, taking over for the Bears here, and he has produced a top seven tight end in yards per game over the last three seasons with Sam Laporta and even TJ Hawkinson a little bit in 2022. So we know tight ends are a key part of Ben Johnson offenses. Maybe a little bit of volatility here with the potential timeshare issue with Cole Kmet involved here, and obviously Loveland making his debut. So I actually don't even mind taking a little bit of a ladder here on Loveland up to 40, 50, 60 yards and getting a little bit juicy with this one. But this baseline at 28.5 is one of my favorite props of the week so far. I love Loveland. I like his upside here. I think he's going to be highly used in this Bears offense. When you look at some of the preseason production for Loveland, we saw him run 20 routes in the preseason, saw a target on five of those. If that kind of ratio can translate to NFL regular season target volume as well, I think we're going to see him highly involved in this offense with a lot of design plays as well. And in that preseason game, he had four catches for five targets and 38 yards, so 9.5 yards per reception as well. Solid efficiency per catch for Loveland as well. So I like the over on 20.5 receiving yards for the rookie tight end.
Yeah, it feels like it's going to be maybe a Sam Laporta 2.0 situation here. And I do like the fact that you're considering the latter here on Loveland, just because if he ends up going to like a 50-yard threshold, we might not see this kind of line anymore going forward, given how involved tight ends have been in Ben Johnson's offense. All right, Sean, Nick, let's take a vote. Are we going to take under 43.5 for Monday Night Football, or are we going to bank on the rookie Colston Loveland over 28.5 receiving yards? Let's vote. All right, Nick, Sean, I went with the rookie, Colston Loveland. I want points and I want love. All right, it's a clean sweep of the love and the land. All right, so we're going to take Colston Loveland over 28.5 receiving yards as the first leg for this same game parlay. Friendly reminder, Nick also, or pardon me, Kyle also picked under 43.5 as his second bet. Now, let's move to Sean Koerner. Sean, you have two props, one on each side. What is the first bet you like in Monday Night Football?
Yeah, so I'm going to go with another Bears pass catcher over as well. I'm going to go with Roma Dunze over 48.5 receiving yards. He was, of course, top 10 pick last year and a wide receiver I was very high on entering the league. However, he did have a brutal rookie season. But a lot of that blame could be put on Caleb Williams and the former coaching staff. He was definitely a downfield threat. He had the seventh most targets, 20 plus yards downfield, but only caught 15% of those targets, which is the lowest among qualified wide receivers. I think he's too talented for him not to regress in that department. But there was also a ton of wasted potential targets in this offense last year. Caleb led the league in sacks, of course, but also throwaways. So, I think under new head coach Ben Johnson, we're going to see a tighter offense, more on-script plays. That probably goes straight to Rome Odunze. So, also, they upgraded the offensive line. So I think, Caleb Williams probably won't take as many sacks this year. So I think a lot of things will help out Rome in year two. And we also saw a sneak of that in the preseason. He actually led the team with a 27% target rate when Caleb was on the field. So, all signs are pointing to Rome having a year two breakout. We already saw a couple of guys I was high on, and Keon Coleman and Ricky Pearsall had disappointing rookie seasons, and they kind of broke out yesterday as well. So let's go with Rome Odunze over 48.5 receiving yards. And my next pick is running back for the Vikings, Jordan Mason, over 38.5 rushing yards. And all off seasons, the Vikings have kind of been hinting they want to run the ball more this year to maybe insulate, rookie. It's going to be JJ McCarthy's first season under center. So they probably want to be a lot more run heavy. But last year, they just didn't have any depth behind Aaron Jones, and he had all these fumbling issues. He was in the doghouse. He got benched a couple times in game. They couldn't really replace him with anybody, so they brought in Jordan Mason, who had a breakout year for the Niners last season, filling in for the injured Christian McCaffrey. I think this offense is a good fit for him. Last year in San Francisco, he faced a stack box 33% of the time, which is tied for the league lead with Derrick Henry. Aaron Jones faced the stack box half that rate. And whenever Jordan Mason faced a non-stack box, he ranked third in the league in yards per carry at 5.8. So I think he's going to have a little bit more room to run in this offense. And what they're hinting is it's going to be more of a 50-50 timeshare with Mason, favoring the early down short yardage work. So I think his rushing prop is specifically the market to kind of attack. Plus, this offensive line should be, top 5 unit this year, but Christian Darrisaw is questionable, so he's someone we should be monitoring. Hopefully he suits up tonight. But either way, I like Jordan Mason over 38.5 rushing yards.
All right. So the two picks from Sean Koerner are Rome Odunze over 48.5 receiving yards, and he's also looking at Jordan Mason over 38.5 rush yards. So Kyle, Nick, let's take a vote. All right, guys, which way do we go? We're going to add in Rome Odunze pick, or are we going to take Jordan Mason? I went with Rome Odunze. What did you guys do? We got Mason, Rome. All right, so there are two. What does that say? Nick, what did that say? Rome was built today. Okay, all right. That makes me feel even better. Okay, all right. So Rome Odunze is the second leg of the same game parlay from Sean Koerner. Rome Odunze over 48.5 receiving yards. We're going to pair that with Colston Loveland over 28.5 receiving yards. So that's two of the four legs of the same game parlay. We move now to Nick Giffen. But before we get to Nick, first up, if you want access to all of Action Pro projections, make sure to sign up for an annual subscription to Action Pro. Access includes exclusive player prop picks from Sean Koerner and all the other members of the Action Analytics team, along with some anytime touchdown projections, which did great in week one so far. You'll also get access to our best spread, money line, and total bets, along with real ticket and money percentages. To sign up, visit actionnetwork.com/pro today and use code ISLAND20 at sign up. One more time, that's ISLAND20 at sign up for $20 off. All right, we now move to the king of the luck rankings, Dr. Nick Giffen. Nick, what are your true bets for Monday Night Football?
All right, well, we got a Loveland bet in there. We got a Rome bet in there. I guess we need a DJ Moore bet, and I'm going to take under 5.5 receptions for DJ Moore. Look, the Vikings, they generated pressure last year at a top 6 rate, and they also blitzed at the highest rate. And that should definitely continue. DJ Moore, his target share from Caleb Williams under pressure dropped the most of all Bears pass catchers last season. Usually it drops a few percentage simply because sometimes Caleb will scramble or he'll get sacked, those kinds of things. But to have it drop nearly in half from 27% to 14% is crazy. And those targets that, DJ Moore did get under pressure also traveled an average of 8.5 yards farther downfield. So from 6.5, all the way up to like 15-yard A dot. And so, excuse me, that just being farther downfield is a lower catch rate opportunity. And he actually did have a lower catch rate, going from 75% on the non-pressure targets to only a 41% catch rate on targets downfield. And it's kind of funny that DJ Moore had 15 catches on 15 targets last year versus the Vikings. Perfect 100% catch rate. That's completely unsustainable. He had a 71% catch rate last year. If you just apply that number to 15 targets, we'd expect around, 5.25 catches per game on 7.5 targets per game. And honestly, that catch rate probably should be a little bit lower. The Vikings allowed a below average catch rate last year. So, I think probably even closer to 5 receptions per game, DJ Moore should have had versus the Vikings last year.
Always got to check the mute button here. DJ Moore, under 5.5 receptions is the first leg. So if we already have a Colston Loveland bet, we already have a Roma Dunze bet, somebody's probably going to have to suffer. So that might be DJ Moore. That is one pick from Nick. What is the second pick you like for Monday Night Football?
Yeah, well, let's stay with that pressure theme. And I'm going to go to the Bears quarterback, Caleb Williams. And instead of, again, taking him for an anytime touchdown, I'm going to take a specific angle here and take a second half touchdown. You can get it 9-1. I think there's even a 10-1 out there, but he had no rushing touchdowns last year. But that's kind of crazy considering he had 81 rush attempts. He would scramble a bunch. He had some designed runs in the red zone. And the Vikings, again, bring a ton of pressure, and Williams' scramble rate jumps from a little more than 4% per drop back with a clean pocket to 12%, almost triple the scramble rate when he is facing pressure. And the reason I'm targeting the second half here specifically is Caleb Williams, both his designed runs and his scrambles had about 56% of all of those runs, to 58% of all of those runs come in the second half. So it didn't matter if it was a designed run or a scramble. It was around 56 to 58% of each came in the second half, including 7 of his 9 red zone carries came in the second half. Again, no touchdowns despite having 9 red zone carries last year. A little bit unlucky on that touchdown department there for Caleb Williams. Again, we might see a little more scrambling in the second half with the Vikings being favored. And a little bonus, we could see some overtime in this game. My model has this as a kind of a likely overtime game relative to the odds. I think you can get like a 14-1 out there for overtime, and my model has value on that. And the second half touchdown includes overtime, should we happen to get that. And you might be like, come on, what are the chances of overtime? Well, even if it's around 5%, there's a 5% chance that we just have a little bit more game time for Caleb Williams to grab a touchdown. So those things, in the margins matter when you're betting. So give me Caleb Williams for a second half touchdown.
I love these two bets. Caleb Williams, second half touchdown. Anytime you have a second half touchdown handicap, my ears perk up. I need to listen. And then, of course,
hold up. I will say, tune in to Bet What Happens Live, because at halftime, we might see that his odds are 11-1 or 12-1 live betting. So make sure to tune in to Bet What Happens Live in the Action Network Discord as well.
For sure. And that's at halftime, or it's going to start at 2-minute warning of the first half and go right until the end of halftime. You and Grant Neefer will find some good bets going into the second half. So, Sean, Kyle, we have to vote. DJ Moore under 5.5 receptions, or are we going to take Caleb Williams for a second half touchdown? Let's take a vote. All right, Kyle, Sean, we already got 2 receiving props. I'm going to go with the other receiving prop. I'm taking DJ Moore under. What do we like? All right, it's a clean sweep on DJ Moore. I will say, though, I might still bet that Caleb touchdown on its own. That price is still very, very enticing. So
I had a good touchdown week, so,
Absolutely. Emeka Egbuka, Trey Tucker. You had a great week on that front. Now, So we have 3 legs of the same game parlay. It's going to be Colston Loveland over 28.5 receiving yards. And then, of course, our Rome Odunze over on his receiving yards. And we are going to take DJ Moore on under on his receptions. Now, before we round out this parlay, we have an awesome new feature here at Action Network. It's called Playbook. So if you're on Twitter or X and you see a bet from any of our favorite action experts or anyone on gambling Twitter for that matter, now you can tag Playbook under their post and our AI bot will build you a bet slip at a sportsbook of your choice. It's that simple. You don't have to try and find what menu those bets are under or all the different parlay legs. It will build it for you. So now all you got to do is use Playbook and build your bets the easy way. Well, all this talk about the receiving idea for the Bears, that makes me get really excited for Rome Odunze. So that's going to be my first pick that I'm going to put out there. Rome Odunze, it's around plus 220. I think, again, Sean broke it down perfectly, but just primed for a breakout. Led the team in air yards, downfield targets. As a rookie, he was 16th in the NFL in red zone targets and also led the Bears in targets per route run in the red zone. The Vikings defense, I think they're strong, but again, they have had problems defending wide receivers last year. They were bottom 3 in targets, catches, and touchdowns allowed to the position. So I think Rome Odunze to score an anytime touchdown would round out this parlay perfectly. But if we wanted to add another long shot, maybe we wanted to look on the Vikings side, I was looking at Jalen Nailor because when Jordan Addison was out last year, it was him who was ended up thriving on the touchdown front. And I'm just not sure that Adam Thielen is going to come in and play an immediate full snap share like he was playing with Carolina. And Jalen Nailor, he had 6 touchdowns last year. He did well against man coverage. And part of the reason why I was looking at that is because Dennis Allen is now the new defensive coordinator for the Bears, played a lot of man coverage at his time as a head coach with the Saints. So I think that they're going to pivot a little bit more from the zone coverage that they were doing and more to a man front. And Nailor had the second best win rate on the Vikings last year versus man defenses. So I like that as a long shot. So either Jalen Nailor at put around plus 480 for an anytime touchdown, or we could take Rome Odunze around plus 220. So guys, let's take a vote. All right, guys, how do we vote? Are we building Rome in a day or are we taking the Nailer? Rome built in a day. So that is the parlay. All Bears centric all day. So we're going to take over on the receiving yards for Rome Odunze. We're going to take over on the receiving yards for Colston Loveland. We're going to take the under on receptions for DJ Moore. And we're going to pair that and round it out with Rome Odunze for an anytime touchdown. That parlay comes out to around 12-1. And a reminder, you can follow Parlay Express in the Action Network app. If we have other parlays or other interesting SGPs that we like for this game, we're going to add those in that account. So make sure to check that out as well. All right, before we get out of here, Nick, what do you think of this parlay just as far as how it's correlated? Because I'm feeling pretty good with the fact that we got the over on Loveland and Odunze and taking the under on DJ Moore here.
Yeah, well, I mean, clearly Rome yards and Rome touchdown is correlated, and if the ball's going to Rome and Loveland, it's not going to DJ Moore. So it's super correlated parlay. We're getting 12-1 on it. I like it.
I love it. All right, so that's all for us. Before we get going, I'll tell you what the parlay is one more time. It is Rome Odunze over on his receiving yards, Colston Loveland over on his receiving yards, DJ Moore under on his receptions, and Rome Odunze for an anytime touchdown. You can parlay that right now for 12-1. There's a bet slip in the chat that you could use to tail that immediately. So that is all for us. I want to thank you for watching Action Island for Vikings Bears. We're going to be back on Thursday. It's going to be a good one. Packers Commanders is next on deck later in the week to kick off week 2. So on behalf of Nick Giffen, Sean Koerner, Kyle Murray, and myself, I'm Gilles Gallant. Aloha and bon chance.